The final AP poll is out and Louisville basketball is on fire.
You are Locked On ACC, your daily podcast on the Atlantic Coast Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome into Locked On ACC. I'm Jackson Holzer, filling in for Alex Dono. I'm the host of Locked On Syracuse, and as always, I'm joined by Kenton Gibbs, former NC State defensive tackle, and now the host of Locked On Wolfpack. And we got a busy show for you all this evening. The final 2024 college football AP poll has been released, so we're going to talk about that. Louisville basketball, are they back? Comment in the comment section below right now. Louisville basketball. Especially you fans, you should be excited about your team. And who else in the ACC besides the Duke Blue Devils? So we got football and basketball on this edition of Locked On ACC. And before we get to everything, today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. Kenton, thanks as always for joining me here on Locked On ACC. You know, we tend to disagree on a lot of things, but I have a feeling we're going to agree a lot here on this show. But let's start off talking about the final AP poll. We got 4 ACC teams in the top 25, SMU at 12, Clemson at 14, Miami at 18, and my Syracuse Orange are at 20. Louisville finished in 28th for what it's worth with 38 votes. Kenton, what stands out to you?
You know, what stands out to me more than anything else is that not only is the ACC finally getting respect, but I was surprised that SMU did not drop more with their showing against Penn State. They were already a team that people were talking about. You're on the verge. Should you make it? Should you be there? What should that situation look like? And Penn State dominated. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And anybody who knows me knows I love me some SMU. SMU was flatly outclassed. They were shown to be a lesser team in that game. And so, you know, this is a moment where I sit here saying, wow, SMU still gets the benefit of the doubt, still gets some love in this poll, being at number 12, despite the fact they had a much worse showing than number 14 Clemson, who came in right behind them against Texas. You know, they had a much, much better showing. That game was actually competitive at multiple points in time. And yet, you know, they still end up with 14 there. The final AP poll seemed to weigh in the regular season a little bit more than I would have thought.
Yeah, and the reason why I think SMU is getting a lot of benefit of the doubt here is because Penn State, it turns out they're pretty good, right? You know,
right.
Made that Final Four, so they are pretty good. I guess if I have a little bit of, not controversy isn't the right word, but my disagreements here are, why is Clemson behind SMU? And why is Syracuse behind Miami?
Right.
I get it. It's about full totality of work. But at the same time, I mean, head-to-head has to count for something, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's why I said I'm surprised that SMU is getting that much love, because if you think about it, Clemson beat them in the postseason, technically speaking. That was a postseason win for Clemson. That wasn't a regular season win. But even by that logic, you're right. Syracuse should still hypothetically be in front of Miami. That's just a factual statement. Even if, you know, unless you completely discount what we saw down the stretch, unless you completely discount those last couple games, then yes, Miami should still be in front of Syracuse. But the reality is those are two teams with identical records that have a head-to-head game that one of them won. And they're in the same conference, by the way. This isn't like, oh, well, you know, they have the same record, but this team has they play in a tougher conference, and this team may have won the head-to-head, but they couldn't have gone through their schedule and did what they did. No, this is literally one-to-one. Hey, same conference, same record, virtually everything being identical, but Syracuse doesn't get the benefit of the doubt here. So I guess you were right, Jackson. I guess we are going to agree a little bit here, because I agree with you. Head-to-head does matter a lot to me. What happens when you line up and you know, when you lace up those cleats, get on the line and see what happens, that matters a lot to me. And so, to me, if you're going to be in front of a team that beats you, you have to be resoundingly better than them all throughout the rest of the year, to where you could clearly point to that game and say, hey, that game is the aberration. Other than that game in particular, they've shown who they are, and this team is superior to that one.
I think the big thing that you hit on right there is identical records, identical conference, because head to head, I want to be very clear to you all, right? It shouldn't be everything, right? We know that Michigan beat Ohio State. I am not going to sit here and argue that Michigan is a better team than Ohio State. It's a mix of head to head and also totality of work. But when you're looking at Clemson and you're looking at SMU, I'm going to take Syracuse out for a moment. I mean, they played in the ACC title game. Everything was on the line in that game.
Yeah.
Everything. I mean, Clemson needed to win because they weren't going to get in at large. And SMU, if they get blown out, it's possible they're left out of the playoff entirely. So they were trying as well. Similar records. I think SMU, correct me if I'm wrong, they were a game ahead of Clemson.
I believe so.
Yeah. Since when has that stopped the AP poll from ranking one team ahead of another just because they have a worse record? Since when? Ever? I mean, we talked about it throughout the entirety of the season, how they usually do that.
Yeah.
And then when you look at Miami and Syracuse, they finished with the same records. Same one. I forget the bowl game, though. If you're just going to talk about the regular season, same records, basically. Miami 10-2, Syracuse 9-3. Syracuse beat them at home. Miami had a 21-point lead in that game. And from then on, Syracuse dominated them after that. So I guess that's my gripe of the AP poll. But at the same time, I mean, none of them won the national championship. None of them came particularly close. So at the end of the day, is it the end of the world that Clemson's behind SMU and Syracuse is behind Miami? No. I think the big point here, honestly, is that 4 teams got in the top 25, which is pretty good. And Louisville was knocking on the door. But you know what I feel sorry about?
They should have lost to Syracuse. I meant to Stanford, but proceed.
Well, that from a Syracuse perspective, of course, they weren't going to get in the.
No, not Syracuse. I'm talking about Louisville. Louisville also lost to Stanford, and that's what kept them out. That's kept
true.
them out.
Seems like nobody can beat Stanford these days. But I was going to make fun of you a little bit and say your Pitt Panthers did not make the top 25.
Oh, here we go. They're my Pitt Panthers now. Y'all see how he does this, America. Everybody is on the same page. Me and Jackson getting along, and now he got to bring up old stuff. Are you a sports analyst or are you a historian? Because why you always bringing up the old stuff? Okay, Pitt was undefeated at the time. They were playing great ball at the time. There was no evidence in my mind to say, oh, this team's going to be they're going to finish the season. What was it? 0-6 or 1-6 down the stretch? Who could have predicted that? You as a Syracuse guy should know better than anybody.
Didn't predict that. I didn't think they were going to go winless. That I'll tell you. I just like making fun of you. It's fun.
You as a Syracuse guy should know better than anybody because weren't y'all the last team in the ACC to start off 6-0 and then not win a game down the stretch?
They did win one. They won one game. They won one.
So they were 1-5 down the stretch. But either way, you can't predict that type of stuff. When Syracuse was 6-0, there was no way you were like, this team's a little fraudulent, a little fishy. They're going to lose everything down the stretch. There was no way of knowing that. And Pitt came out there and showed that, Pat Narduzzi is the pinnacle and the abyss of coaching all at once. He shows highest of highs, great coach, great play call, great scheme. And then he also shows refusal to adjust. There's absolutely no creativity in the game plan. It's just like, man, what's happening?
There's probably a Pitt Panthers fan that's watching or listening to this podcast that probably turned it off, but that's okay. It's all right. I had to tease Kenton a little bit about Pitt, but that about does it for the college football season. We're done talking about 2024. For the rest of the time, if we're talking about 2024, it's in regards to the fact that we're going to bring up 2025 and using the past to predict the future and everything like that. But that is it. No more debates about 2024. The final AP poll is out. Leave your thoughts in the comment section below. We'd love to hear from you here on Locked On ACC because coming up, we're not going to be talking about football. We're going to be talking some hoops. And Louisville basketball, they're back. So stick with us here on Locked On ACC. Therapy is a game changer. It can help manage stress, improve sleep, and communicate more effectively. But finding the right therapist and fitting sessions into a busy schedule can be a challenge. That's where Talkspace comes in. Talkspace, the leading virtual therapy provider, makes getting the help you need easy, accessible, and affordable. With Talkspace, signing up is simple. You can match with a licensed therapist who fits your needs, usually within 48 hours. And it's convenient. You have sessions from the comfort of your home and even message your therapist between appointments. Plus, Talkspace is covered by many insurance plans. And for most insured members, there's a $0 copay. It's never been easier to prioritize mental health. As a listener of this podcast, you'll get $80 off your first month with Talkspace when you go to Talkspace.com/LockedOnCollege and enter promo code SPACE80 to match with a licensed therapist today. Go to Talkspace.com/LockedOnCollege and enter promo code SPACE80 to get $80 off your first month and show your support for the show. That's Talkspace.com/LockedOnCollege, promo code SPACE80. Thank you for making Locked On ACC your first listen of every single day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team, your conference every single day. And you know what, Kenton? Before we continue with this segment here, all right, I got to change my background because it's a football background. And now we're going to be talking about basketball from here on out. So here we go.
Don't you
Those
do
that
it.
are watching on
Don't
YouTube.
you do it.
There it is. We're talking basketball now, right?
The way that Syracuse has been hooping in 2025 so far, I would have left it. I would have left it right where it is.
Same thing with NC State. We're not going to be talking
I agree. You see, I ain't got no NC State basketball background, okay? Unless it's a big
more neutral background for you.
Unless it's a big boy, DJ Burns, I really don't care to talk too much NC State right now. I'm just not there mentally.
All right. Well, there's one program that we really should talk about, and that's the Louisville Cardinals. This is a team that has not been ranked in the AP poll since January of 2021, but here they are. Last 2 seasons with Kenny Payne. Sorry, Louisville fans, I have to bring it up because it's part of the story. Louisville basketball won 12 games combined. They were the absolute joke of the ACC, and now they've won 9 straight. They're in the top 25, and they're doing this without Kasean Pryor. Kenton, what do you think that teams can learn from Louisville going forward about their turnaround?
Teams can learn from their turnaround how much effort can get done for you. This Louisville team is a team consisted of a bunch of guys who just try hard as hell. If you watch their games and you're saying, what is Louisville doing particularly spectacularly? What are they doing in a way that nobody else can replicate it? What have they done to win all of these games in a row? Every game has not been a blowout. Every game has not been against good teams. Every game has not been them playing great, but every game has seen them fighting, scrapping, clawing to get to every loose ball, to every rebound. And I'm going to tell you something. I want you to think about this for a second, right? If you would have told anybody, hey, by the way, Louisville, who is only going to beat Eastern Kentucky by 2 points, they're going to need every single inch. They're going to need everything to close this game out against Eastern Kentucky. They're going to need to stave off a massive comeback from the Colonels. Nobody will believe you. Nobody. They'd say, oh, I'm sorry. If you tell them that team is going to go on a 9-game winning streak, nobody will believe you. Nobody would say, hey, that team is actually a good team to be feared or to be cared about. And yet they continue to show up and show up. And I'll tell you, you talk about 12 wins over the past 2 years. I wouldn't be shocked if this winning streak gets to 12 because look who they got in front of them. Are you particularly afraid of Wake Forest, Georgia Tech, Boston College, Miami, NC State, or Notre Dame at the moment? Any one of those teams.
I guess they can lose to Wake Forest, maybe.
But you see what I'm saying? So they can have a streak. They can have a winning streak that is more wins than Kenny Payne put together in multiple years. You know, I always say it's not about your X's and your O's, it's your Larrys and your Joes. And I'll tell you what, these Larrys and these Joes have bought into what the X's and O's are. They have bought in to the new system. They have washed off the stank of the Kenny Payne error. Yes, I said error and not era. It was an error that Kenny Payne was there, but they've washed off the funk of that, and they've come out on the other side much better for it because they're playing some hellified basketball right now.
They really are. And Pat Kelsey, we're going to talk in a second about maybe him being coach of the year, but it's certainly possible around the country when you look at the other possible candidates. Mm-hmm. But I think my biggest takeaway from watching a program like Louisville, and as a Syracuse fan, we watched Louisville absolutely spank the Orange inside the dome. It was not fun as a Syracuse podcast host to watch that game. Let me tell you, it wasn't fun at all. There's 2 things. Number one, investing in NIL is very, very important. Absolutely. Very important. I mean, they are one of the top spending teams probably around the country. So you got to invest to get those good players into your program.
But that's you a Chucky Hepburn and guys like him. They ain't just coming for free.
Yeah, but here's the other thing, Kenton. it's not just about NIL, because if it was as simple as let's pay $1 billion for our roster in basketball, well, look at Arkansas right now in the SEC. They got Coach Calipari. He's a legendary coach, right? They got all these players, all these 5 stars coming in, brand new roster. Have they won an SEC game yet? Are they going to make the tournament? Now their best players out for the whole year. They're screwed in Arkansas. Yeah. So it's not just about spending a lot of NIL money. It's how you spend your NIL money and getting the right coach. Getting the right coach is so important because, ladies and gentlemen, in the transfer portal NIL era, rebuilds don't have to take a long time.
No, not at all.
They don't. It's not the time of, this isn't the 80s or 90s or even the 2000s where you have to stack recruiting classes one on top of the other, hit on a few guys, and eventually get good once everyone becomes seniors, juniors, and occasionally you might have a sophomore squeak in there here or two. That takes time. Nowadays, every team is changing their roster year in and year out. And when I look at a program like Louisville, I sit here, and you're an NC State host, I'm a Syracuse host, and say, I get it. We might not have the same NIL dollars, but why can't you be better next year? It gives you hope that you can turn it around.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you look at what NC State did last year in terms of that magical run, who were the leaders of that squad? Who were the guys who kind of made the engine go there? DJ Burns, a transfer that was on his 3rd or 4th school by that time.
Yep.
DJ Horn, another guy that was on his 3rd or 4th college at that time. Mo Diarra, another guy who was on his 2nd college, coming over from Missouri, I believe it was. So it's not unusual to see teams build through the portal. But again, you need the portal combined with the right coach. It's not just about, hey, pay a lot of money and win. But I will tell you this. I do disagree with you on the paying a lot of money won't get you wins. I think that there is a very direct correlation between the two. And of course, you'll always have outliers. You'll always have 1 or 2 teams that have, they sold the barn and they still can't get nothing done. But by and large, when you make that investment pays off. I mean, I know we just said we're done talking 2024 college football, but the national champion team had a $20 million roster.
I would argue that football is a little bit different because of it's especially important in the trenches in football. I mean, you could just dominate there, but I see your point.
But you get what I'm saying? Regardless of the sport, I believe that there will be a very direct correlation between teams that are ranked, teams that win ball games, and teams that spend money. I believe it'll be a direct and positive correlation between the two. And teams that don't, well, you might not, if you don't want to spend the bread, you're not going to beat out the guys who do.
It's not that I disagree with you. It's just my overall point is that even if you have a lot of money, it's not going to guarantee that you're going to win. I mean, look at Arkansas. I mean, they don't win anything, right? They had high expectations, and they're not winning, and they have all this NIL money.
But Arkansas is an aberration.
Yeah.
Look at the rest of the SEC and what they're doing right now in basketball. And them boys got money. The football money, they got so much from football, they got extra to throw in the basketball. And now look what's happened as a result of that. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying that, hey, the money is all that matters, but the money is a major chunk of what matters, right? It's like looking up ACT scores and then looking up the household incomes of the parents. Like, yes, there are kids whose parents make a ton of money who don't do well on the ACT, sure. But by and large, when you look at that graph, they're saying, oh, who's doing well on it? Who's doing well on the test? What do their parents do? What do their parents make? You're generally going to see, again, for the most part, hey, if they make more money, the kids are going to do better. And to me, the coaching matters. And yes, getting the right pieces matters and all that. It makes it easier to get the right pieces when you got the right money.
That's true. But you know what? They weren't broke when they had Kenny Payne and they couldn't win games. They weren't broke with Kenny Payne and they couldn't win anything. Speaking of Pat Kelsey, though, do you think he should be the favorite for Coach of the Year?
I don't think there's any argument that anybody else is seriously in consideration. I mean, what he has done this year, if we are correct in terms of none of those teams being serious about beating Louisville, if Louisville gets over Wake Forest, they go on a string of teams that are in the bottom half of the ACC. They're going to have a winning streak that is more wins than the previous coach had in his last 2 years combined. I don't see what world you don't say, hey, that coach, in my community, when some food is good, they say you put your foot in it. That young man put his entire foot in that team and did what he did because he's cooking up something special. He's cooking up something special with a team that many people thought, they got some transfers and they got a little bit of talent. They got some guys, maybe they did some addition by subtraction. By the way, I'm still upset at Louisville for sending us Brandon Huntley, Hatfield. I don't know what happened. The boy can't rebound. He can't score. It's just not tough. But that's neither here nor there. I'm looking at this team and saying, well, damn, what is this? Was this here all along? So I don't think that anybody else really deserves serious consideration. And I know my guy Slam 10 is going to love to hear that. But seriously, Cardinals Nation should be very excited to see how well this team is playing, again, in year one under a new coach. Like you said, you don't have to stack class after class after class, but you and I both know it's different when it becomes a machine, like what they got rolling at UConn right now, where it's a machine. It's like hey, year in, year out, expect us to be coming. He's on year one and building something that looks very formidable in the ACC.
And also with Pat Kelsey, I think the reason why I don't think there's really anyone that comes close to him right now, and it's only late January. There's still plenty of time for other coaches to emerge, and we could totally be jinxing Louisville right now. Maybe they go on a 5-game losing streak, and we're sitting here in a month from now talking about what the heck happened to Louisville in a bad way. I don't think that's going to happen, though. With Pat Kelsey, he took a roster that was entirely brand new. Yeah. There is one holdover from last year's team. One. It's a walk-on. That's it. That is the only player. Not only that, their best player, arguably, Kasean Pryor, is out for the season.
Right.
And they're still winning all of these games. So I look at other contenders. I mean, who else comes close? I mean, Mark Pope with Kentucky. I mean, congratulations. You're good with Kentucky basketball. Who's good every year. Bruce Pearl with Auburn. I mean, Auburn has been good every year with Bruce Pearl. You can't give it. Bruce Pearl Dusty May with Michigan. I mean, you can argue Michigan. I mean, Michigan has an argument. Yeah, Michigan's going through it with Dusty May. I mean, they're kind of similar. They're kind of the Big Ten version of Louisville right now, but they weren't as down in the dumps as Louisville was. So right now,
the Juwan Howard era was not as piss poor as the Kenny Payne era.
That was not an error. That was not an error. That was an era, in my opinion. Did they win a national title? Did they have enough tournament success? No, but during that era, they weren't always. They were actually pretty good for the most part.
Yeah, you're referring to Juwan Howard. Oh yeah, I agree. Juwan Howard was an error. Kenny Payne was an error. That was like, this is bad. I remember the situation where the young man didn't play because they didn't have the right leggings, and he said that nationally, and I'm just like, this situation cannot get worse. It literally cannot get worse. Y'all need to get rid of this man. And lo and behold, they did so, and now they have a National Coach of the Year candidate.
Well, Louisville fans, rejoice. It appears your program is back. It depends on your definition of back. They are definitely nationally relevant in a good way. Again, Louisville in the top 25 for the first time in 4 years. I'm Jackson Holzer. That's Kenton Gibbs. We got one more segment for you all here on Locked On ACC, and we're sticking with hoops talk. Duke is the class of the conference. Who else could maybe emerge come March? Stick with us here on Locked On ACC. Attending NFL playoff games is an experience like no other. The energy, the excitement, and the connection with other fans, it's unmatched. And I remember the thrill of watching the New York Jets beat the New England Patriots in 2010. I was 8 years old. That's the last time the New York Jets won a playoff game. I'm sorry to Kenton. He's a Detroit Lions fan. They're out early in this NFL playoffs. But hey, maybe your team is still in it. And this year, Game Time makes it even easier to create those unforgettable moments with their new feature, Game Time Picks. It filters out the fluff and shows you only the best deals on great seats so you can focus on what matters, being there. I use Game Time Picks to grab tickets for an upcoming playoff game, and it couldn't be easier. I found a super deal that gave me incredible value for amazing seats, and I could even preview the view from my spot before buying. The all-in pricing is a game changer, no surprise fees at checkout, plus knowing my tickets are backed by the Game Time guarantee gave me complete peace of mind. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege. For $20 off your first purchase, terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONCollege, LOCKED, ONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Wrapping up here on Locked On ACC, I'm Jackson Holzer, the host of Locked On Syracuse. That's Kenton Gibbs, the host of Locked On Wolfpack. And hey, he played Division I college football with the NC State Wolfpack as a defensive tackle. But we're talking some hoops here on Locked On ACC. We talked about Louisville's resurgence. And now, Kenton, you look around the conference. Duke is the class. I think we can all agree on that. Even myself and Kenton, right? We can agree on Duke, right?
Yeah, I don't think anybody in their right mind that has two eyes is saying, oh, yeah, even people who have one eye, even people who can't see. I'm pretty sure Stevie
How about
Wonder,
no eyes? I will still say Duke is the best.
If you can hear the game, you can hear that Cooper Flag and that Malawash kid they're doing their damn thing. So I wouldn't disagree there that everybody who is sentient knows, hey, that's the best team in the ACC.
Okay, so Duke is clearly the best team. They are clearly the team that has the best odds of winning the national championship out of all the teams in the conference. But outside of Duke, who do you think is that second team that can really make a run come March?
I know y'all gonna hate to hear this. I know y'all hate to hear, oh, he's Brownell. He's gonna do it. He's gonna fumble. He's every time he gets there, he just can't get it done. But is it anybody other than Clemson who deserves serious consideration here? And let me tell you why I say, hey, Brad Brownell and Clemson are right there and they're ready to erupt here. What two things matter in postseason play? What two things matter in conference tournament time and in the NCAA tournament time? What are the two things that normally everybody says prevails, Jackson?
Guard play.
Guard play and experience.
There you go.
And they have a ton of both. Everybody on that team not only plays old, they look old. I mean, for Christ's sake, how long have some of these guys been in college? Jaden Zachary looks like he's about 35 years old. But seriously, this is a group of very senior, very experienced guys. Chase Hunter leading the way, Ian Shiflin being a do-it-all guy. You have multiple guys. I believe out of their top 5 scorers, 4 of the 5 are seniors. These guys are experienced. They're old. They've been there. They've seen it. They've done it. They've dealt with all the heartbreak. They've dealt with all they can't get the job done. And by the way, 4 of their 5 lead scorers are seniors. You want to know what class the 5th guy is who's not a senior?
Who?
He's a junior. You know what I mean? Like, that's how old this team is. Again, Chauncey Wiggins, who is their 5th lead scorer, he's a junior. So you're looking at a situation where, again, guard play, 2 very experienced guards that are getting it done. 2 guys that are playing at an extremely high level in that backcourt, combined with a ton of length, a very versatile front court, and then you add in some young guys who are talented to come in and kind of keep their legs fresh. But in all seriousness, they've got the guard play. They've got the experience. If Clemson goes on a run, don't be shocked.
I could see Clemson going on a run, not just because they did last year, but also because they're one of the best shooting teams in the country.
Yep.
Syracuse played this team last night, so I got to watch them. They can really just shoot the lights out. If you give them anyone on the floor, it's like pick a player. It's like you don't want to give him space. Don't give him space. If you give that guy space, he's going to shoot on you and he's going to make it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, they're really good. I like Clemson with you, but I'll give you a sneaker. I'll give you a sneaky team, all right? But it's going to depend on whether or not they can actually get in.
Oh,
North Carolina.
I knew you were going to say it. You were going to say it. Let me tell you something.
It's a sleeper. I'm gonna give you a sleep. It's a sleeper because I mean Clemson is I think the other one. Louisville. I mean Louisville. It wouldn't be surprising honestly at this point if they made a run. But if you're talking about teams on the bubble in the ACC, Carolina has got to be that team, right? Who are the other bubble teams? You got Wake, SMU, Pitt, maybe Pitt, right? But I'm going Carolina. They got RJ Davis. They got Ian Jackson. I mean, at some point in time, if they can just put it all together, I think they have a lot of talent. So if they can just get into the NCAA tournament, I could see them going on a run.
There's a reason that team is a sleeper. Remember what I said about Louisville? That's just a team that out-efforts everybody. That's a team that outworks everybody. The exact opposite can be said about UNC. And you know what, though? I will say this. I will concede to your point that they absolutely have the talent. They absolutely have the talent that if they had a little bit better execution, if they had a little bit better coaching, they would be in a position to truly make some noise. But as it stands right now, they don't have that. And if ifs were fists, you and I would both be drunk. And yet here we are sitting stone cold sober, having to deal with and hear about, oh, if UNC gets in, they'll make some noise. There'll be some trouble. We know how talented they are. Nobody is in their right mind would say 90 to 95% of teams around the country wouldn't switch rosters with UNC if given a chance in a heartbeat. But sometimes talent a good team does not make. And that's what we're seeing with this UNC team.
We've seen it before with UNC too, and sometimes we see the opposite, where they are a 1 seed and they underachieve. That was literally last season. But I think back at that time a few years ago where they were an 8 seed and they got in. And it's a dangerous game when you see a team like UNC as an 8 seed come March, because you know that program is going to have talent. You know they might have more talent than a team that's a higher seed than them. So if they can put it all together, they could go on a deep run. So that's my sleeper in the ACC. But I'm with you. I mean, it's Duke the class. You got Louisville and Clemson are 2 and 3 in no particular order, honestly. And then if you're looking on the bubble teams in the conference, North Carolina is that bubble team. The issue is they got to get in. There's a reason why they are on the bubble, right? I'm Jackson Holzer, host of Locked On Syracuse, filling in for Alex Dano. That's Kenton Gibbs from Locked On Wolfpack. We talked a lot on this show. Final 8 people. Louisville on fire. Who else besides Duke? Leave your thoughts in the comments section below. Donna will be back for the next episode of Locked On ACC, and we will see you all again soon.